It feels like every week we're dealing with a new emergency, a new disaster. Is that true? I don't know. Probably not, but it really feels that way. What we don't do often enough is review what led up to the events and strategically discuss ways to alter behaviors to keep them from happening again. In many cases, it's because you can't keep a major catastrophe from occurring, but you can address your individual response to it to better prepare for the next time. Or if you can address your individual response to better prepare for it next time, a design professional perhaps can do even better. You can prepare your clients to be better prepared through a number of ways and to weather the next one better than the previous one, right? Sounds a little clunky, but I think you know what I mean. And it's hard because this is an emotional time, really. Watching, as I record this, I'm still watching what's happening in Los Angeles, and I'm watching these wildfires, in Pacific Palisades. There's the high school there. I coached soccer on that field. I don't know if it's there or not. I don't know if it's completely melted. I don't know if the school's burned down. I don't know what's there versus what's not. But I know, I bought my daughter her first pair of Air Jordans, her first pair, the creamsicle orange and white ones at a store in downtown Pacific Palisades. I had meetings at that Starbucks. I don't know what's there and what's not. But I think that's why I fear that the lessons learned will be long forgotten by many when the next one hits. And that's what troubles me. And there will be a next one. There always is. Some of these ideas are so simple and incorporated into the everyday work of extraordinary creatives. Creatives like Liz Williams. Liz is from Atlanta, Georgia. She has a BA in history from the College of Charleston and a BFA in interior design from Georgia State University. Liz has developed a unique approach to the work and one she employs in her projects that allow her to draw on her love of history, as well as modern techniques and strategies. This combination makes for a successful practice and one that allows her to learn from history, like a global pandemic, and apply these lessons learned to making better the spaces she creates for the people who will use them. Isn't that what's important? And you're going to hear all about it right after this. I am just incredibly proud of this partnership I've got with Thermosol. They have been presenting partners of Convo by Design going on 5 years now. And there is a certain amount of pride that comes with saying that the show is presented by the company that is the best in the world at what they do. Thermosol engineers the most exceptional smart shower products and steam shower systems worldwide, full stop. And it's for a few reasons. First of all, they were the first company to design and patent the technology here in the United States, dating back to 1958. Thermosol, a U.S.-based manufacturer based in Round Rock, Texas, employs an engineering team that designs, tests, and continuously refines the product. Their quality control team tests every single steam generator before it departs the factory. Who else does that? Nobody that I know of. I have the pleasure of working with some world-class designers and architects who tell me, and if you're in the business, you know this, that the idea of luxury has changed, especially when clients want a spa-like bathroom. Steam is mandatory, or it's just not considered a luxury. And if you want to add steam, you have only one true option, my opinion, and that's Thermosol. Mitch Altman, third-generation CEO of this family-owned company of 65 years, continues to innovate in the bathroom and shower space through technological marvels such as intelligent showering systems, sound therapy, aromatherapy, technical interfaces, and so much more. And now Thermosol, the industry leader in steam bath equipment and technology since 1958, as I mentioned, is enhancing its already stellar family of products with the new indoor and outdoor luxury saunas available in 3 designs. The configurations are absolutely amazing, and you should probably go check them out. Indoor and outdoor options. It's amazing. You really do need to check them out. Go to thermosol.com or at Thermosol on the socials. And by the way, those words are music to my ears. Seriously, I've never done this before. Love it. I love that. How is that possible, though, that you have not done a podcast yet?
I don't know. I mean, I listened to some, but it just hasn't come up. And Allison kind of said, "I think you need to do some of these," and so here I am.
Do some of these. You mean this isn't the only one because you had to do this one?
No, I mean, she just said, "Let's start with Josh." So here we are.
It is funny. I have sort of I have earned a reputation for being a great place to start for designers who have never done this before. I have
Well,
heard
good.
that. I've heard that, and I think it's a combination of I don't know what it's a combination of. I'm not putting anybody on the spot. Really,
Uh-huh.
I don't ask anything that you can't answer because I'm not really interested in that. You know what I mean?
Right. Uh-huh.
But it's funny because and I've told this story a million times, but when I started the show in 2013, it was so easy to get guests on that had never done a podcast before. And I actually prefer speaking to people who haven't done a show because, the more interviews you do, the more you sort of refine the messaging. And
Hmm.
I kind of like it when it's as authentic as possible. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Yeah, totally.
I think that's very similar to design as well. And I think
Uh,
that's why I like it as much. Your story is really interesting. And I love to sort of jump into that.
okay.
You did, how there's different ways that creatives wind up in this business.
Hmm.
You go to school for it, you work for someone else, you just go straight out, you hang a shingle, you maybe start in a different business, and then you come to design. You went to school, history
Hmm.
major, fine arts
Yes.
major, and you worked for somebody else. If you had to change that journey at all, would you, or do you feel like you did it exactly like you were supposed to?
I feel like I did it exactly as I was supposed to. I kind of got interested in it when I was at the College of Charleston, and they didn't have a interior design major. So, and I enjoyed history, and I took a lot of history of architecture classes, which that was the perfect place to do that. And I didn't want to transfer, so I just decided, well, if I still have the itch to do it after I graduate, I'll go back to school. And so I came back to Atlanta, grew up here, and then entered the design program at Georgia State. And so I was able to um, do an internship with a designer while I was in school. And so I feel like that was having the, you know, learning to hand draft. This was before CAD, and then and but the hands-on with another designer at the same time was just invaluable. So I really feel like it all came together.
Do you feel like your ability to draw by hand is still relevant?
For some things, I've got someone in my office that helps with CAD now, and so sometimes if I'm not liking the way it's looking, I'll get her to do it in CAD. But I feel like a lot of times just more of sketching to scale with the client and coming up with ideas, using lots of trash paper and that sort of thing. I still feel like it's relevant.
When
Um,
you present to clients, will you present a hand drawing, or do you go full tech now?
Typically full tech, unless we're working things out and trying to change things around, and then that's when the trash paper comes out and do all that. But for presentations, it's all uh full tech.
It's funny. I feel like, and please feel free to disagree with me if you feel differently, but I kind of feel like our industry has lost some of the charm and some of the authenticity between heart and hand and presentation to finished product. Do you know what I mean?
I do. I mean, I feel like the way we present now is a lot different, and but I make the beautiful trays with everything, the fabrics laid out, and furniture pictures, finished samples, and all that. And I just want to pick up and feel everything. And so when I end up ruining the whole tray by the time I'm, just to show, feel this fabric, and feel this stone for your countertops or whatever it is. And so I feel like it doesn't have to be so perfect. I mean, a lot of times, when I was first starting out, you're carrying back just bags of stuff, kind of your dog and pony show. And so I feel like it has gotten different, but I still like uh, the old ways.
Talk to me about your approach to, if we could work in a vacuum and it was a hobby and all you could do was just
Hmm.
design rooms of a huge home and you didn't have to worry about clients or money or funding or anything like that, it would be great, right? But
Oh
that's not
yeah,
the world in which we live.
no.
How have the clients changed? Do you find that your clients are more educated now? And I say that with a specific caveat to, for years, designers would say, I get these Pinterest emails from clients all the time. They send me all these screen grabs from Pinterest and Instagram, and it's like, here's what I want, here's what I want, here's what I want. It's like, we spoke and that's not what you want. But do you find that clients are getting more knowledgeable about what they actually want, or is the process the same?
I feel like they're willing, some don't want to do the research, and that's why they hired you. But others are very, with Instagram, Pinterest, any of that, um, I feel like they are more educated on what's out there, and there's so many dupes of things and that sort of thing. And so I always say I'm here to, guide you. Like, I see that chair does look like this chair, but it is not the same inside, and things like that. And so a lot of times I like Pinterest for if we're starting a new project, just kind of, a lot of people are like, don't look at my house. I don't, this is why I'm hiring you. I don't want this, so what do you like? And so a lot of times I can see a common thread in the pictures, even if they can't really express that to me. Whether it's, we like light colors, or we like, navy and white and a great contrast, or whatever it is that they're not really picking up on to tell me. But if I study their Pinterest board, I can sometimes figure it out. Not always.
It's interesting too, because I have found that, I'm more of a, like, having these conversations are very organic. And that's
Hmm.
something that I've heard about the show that I absolutely love. And I think when it comes to
Hmm.
design too, I would almost prefer that, and I've heard this from some designers, that they won't even accept pictures or images from their client.
Hmm.
It's like, if you have an idea, write me a letter, write
Hmm.
it out. Almost invite me to your new home that's fully completed,
Oh
and
yeah.
and
Hmm.
and tell me what you love most about the living room.
Hmm.
I just think, if you can get people to articulate their true needs and desires in written word, then that's sort of the superpower of the designer, is reimagining that into a real manifestation of that design. Yes.
Oh, definitely. And I think, one of my first questions is, how do you want to use the room? Even if it's a dining room or something like that, yes, we want to eat in it, but how many people are you entertaining, formal, casual, and ask all those questions, to kind of end up at the, where they're happy with and they do use every room, and it's not just a showroom.
It's funny too. You mentioned dupes. I produced a program at the West Edge Design Fair, and by the time this episode with you airs, that episode will have aired as well, which is a reproduction of the actual panel. The idea was authenticity versus dupes. There's so much. You look at that Kardashian case, Clements Design, and the Donald Judd Foundation. You look at the proliferation of dupes. What does that do for you as a designer? You're telling a story. you're creating a narrative. And
Mhm.
I'm torn on this. I really am, because I understand dupes. I understand it.
Mhm.
There's dupes in every industry. It's funny because they're normally called knockoffs. And if you said to a
Right.
client, would you prefer a dupe or a knockoff? They'll say, I'd like a dupe better than a knockoff, but it's
Right.
the same thing.
Uh-huh. For
I don't know. I just feel like there's a market for it. But at the same time, if you can't afford an $80,000 sofa, then there's one for 4,000 or 8,000 that is
Right.
suitable, but you're still knocking off somebody else's work.
Right. Right. I mean, and it, I'll have things made, and well, if you like that style, we're not going to copy it. We're going to tweak it, and we can get you, the $5,000 sofa instead of the $50,000 sofa or whatever it is. And I think, you know, or we come up with our own design that then you have this custom opportunity. No one else is going to have this if we make it specifically for you, and that sort of thing. But I think it's, from a quality standpoint, trying to explain, this is why you don't want this chair, because it's going to be on the curb in a year or two. So you will never recover it because it just go right to the curb.
What is your access? So you're in Atlanta. By the
Yes.
way, I have to ask every Atlantan designer this: ITP or OTP?
um ITP. I grew up
I
OTP, but I live and work ITP.
Which do you prefer?
Really both. I mean, now OTP is just grown so much, and I grew up in Sandy Springs, and we had there were a few farms around and that sort of thing. I mean, never. It's just booming. So really, I work in both areas and beyond. So it's great.
And I ask because I'm just fascinated by this. I really do love it. And for those of you who are new to the show and are not familiar with Atlanta, you have ITP and OTP, inside the perimeter and outside the perimeter, and they're very, very different. It's If you're in DC, it's inside the Beltway or outside the Beltway. If
Mhm.
you're in LA, it's the Valley or Hollywood, or LA or Orange County. I mean, it's very, very distinct. If you're in Dallas, Fort Worth, it's funny because if you're from the Metroplex in Texas, if you're in Dallas, you call it Dallas Fort Worth. If you're from Fort Worth, you call it Fort Worth Dallas. It's the nuances, and they have their own personalities, and I think that that's something that has been lost in the past. Except now, because so many people are moving to so many different places, there's this fearlessness now post pandemic of, if you want to go live somewhere else, go live somewhere else. You've always been able to
Mhm.
do it, but the stigma or the fear of moving to another location has changed. How has that affected your business and your clientele?
I would say you're right. I mean, we people are definitely moving, or learning that whole second home. Like if a pandemic happens again, we got to have this, and or whatever it is. And we have been the last, I'd say, 4 5 years doing a lot of second homes, and so that has been great. And then also clients who have picked up and decided to move out of Atlanta, an hour south, just to get out and to smaller towns. And we've done Noonan, Georgia, and Madison, Georgia, and different places. So that's been interesting. So we travel a lot.
Are you finding primarily redesign of the primary home, or adding a secondary?
A little of both, but I'd say recently more secondary
More secondary.
homes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and what is different about the secondary home than the primary?
I'd say, you know, how most second homes are need to be well equipped to entertain large groups of people, and I feel like clients are a little more daring because it's not something they're living with every day. I've had the most recent ones wanting a lot more color, and but at the same time, it's kind of a respite type place. So you've got to, we've done offices at lake houses, which most people in the past and don't want an office at the lake house. But in today's world, I think people can work remotely. I have a client, they go every Thursday to Monday to their lake house. So he can do a little work, but still be there. And so that's been interesting, doing an office and a vacation home.
It's funny. It almost sounds like raising kids. Like the first home is the one that you just want to be formal and perfect and get everything right. And the second one, you're like taking a few more liberties. Oh,
Yeah,
whatever, it'll be
exactly.
okay.
Exactly. I think, doing a ton more like wallpaper and all kind, but maybe a little more daring with the lighting and that sort of thing, more statement pieces.
You brought up if the pandemic ever happens again, and I do
Hmm.
believe, once something happens once,
Hmm.
the probability of it happening again increases exponentially. And
Right.
we had a pandemic here in the early 1900s, and it took 100 years for another one to happen, but we got lucky. There was swine flu and bird flu and
Oh,
Ebola and all of these things that affected other countries. But regardless of how you feel politically, whether you're D or R, red or blue, the one thing I think most people agree on is that government doesn't, we have learned that government doesn't protect us. And so
hmm.
it's become incumbent on ourselves. And that's where I feel like designers and architects really thrive.
Hmm.
Have you been asked to sort of, not that everyone's becoming a prepper, but have you been asked to sort of incorporate things learned from the pandemic into everyday design?
I'd say not specifically, but whether it's like people are putting in pools and outdoor kitchens and screen porches and things like that, or home theaters. And I think that's all kind of part of that. Like, we spent so much time at home and realized this is what we needed. And we even had a client who decided during the pandemic, we had done their lake house in Alabama, and they decided we've got so much, we can get so much work done there. We're just moving there. They sold their house in Atlanta and they live there now full time. And um, so that, we've built out during COVID, built out an office over their garage at the lake house. And, so it was um, kind of preparing, I guess.
Have you been asked about the other things, security, storage, backup generators? And it's interesting. I ask you this question because these are things that 10 years ago, even 6 years ago, designers weren't really asked to look into. I think, and I don't want to say that primarily it was more decorative than design, but I do think that the level of expertise for the design community specifically has grown again exponentially. And you're asked to do more. At the same time, you're still asked to do the same things you did before regarding specification and tracking down product and becoming knowledgeable about all of the new developments in product. Uh, it can be overwhelming.
Oh, yes, for sure. And, I think you mentioned storage, and that's been huge. I mean, I think any new build or renovation, that's the first concern is storage, and where everything has a place, and that sort of thing. So I feel like, and we have been asked about generators, but I kind of farm that out to someone else. I don't know much about them, but yeah, we're getting all kinds of requests of things that we never did before.
How do you navigate that? Because, and look, I mean, it's funny. Well, let me back up a second. Are you a lifelong learner?
Yes,
You are.
I would say so.
So,
Yeah.
so going back to school, not necessarily formally going back to school, but continuing to learn and educate yourself is something a lot of people don't. They get into the business and they will, part of the strategy is they will hire somebody else to learn the things that they don't know so that they can focus on what they do. How do you approach that?
I'd say, if it's something that's a little bit out of my wheelhouse, I figure out who the expert is. And but I also am maybe more inquisitive to learn this. So the next time around I'm more experienced in it, and that could be anything from I don't know, tile or plumbing and things. I know what I want it to look like, but they're people that know about all the the internal plumbing and all that sort of stuff. So I think they definitely are willing to teach. And so when you talk about the inside of a faucet and which valve goes here, all that stuff, I pay attention. I've been to Kohler, to the factory, to learn about things like that. So I feel like there's we don't do it every day, but anything you can do to be on your way to being an expert, I guess.
You are listening to my conversation with Liz Williams. We'll be right back. The absolute best specifying designers, architects, and landscape designers are all highly focused on the technology and performance of products and materials today. You just have to be. And you have to because the products you specify for your projects have to perform and they have to last. That is one of the reasons why I am so incredibly proud to be working with TimberTech. Their focus on the technical renaissance of synthetic decking is literally changing the conversation about innovation and performance. It pulls focus on 3 priorities homeowners have and expect from the products their designers and architects specify for their luxury projects. 1, the aesthetics must match the overall design and fit visually. 2, durability and maintenance. I've told you my board flipping stories about my own wood decks over the years. Clients not only want beauty, but they want ease of use and they want it to last for decades. 3, sustainably made. Clients are more conscious about the environment and they want the same of their materials and the companies that manufacture their materials. TimberTech hits each one of these elements with a product that not only meets expectations, they exceed them. TimberTech makes a synthetic decking that looks just like wood. Color and embossed wood grain for a natural appearance. Their composite decking is technologically superior. It's been created to last for decades, and it's manufactured with up to 85% recycled materials. 85% recycled materials. Their advanced PVC vintage and landmark collections have a Class A flame spread rating, making these products an amazing choice for wildfire-prone areas, which unfortunately continues to grow on the risk map. Check the show notes for more information about this and to find the nearest showroom or lumberyard where you can find TimberTech. You can also check them out directly, timbertech.com. As a busy professional designer, you know how important it is to find the right partnerships. Partnerships that allow you to specify the right products for every project. Professionals like you don't just have time to sit around and waste, right? So let me tell you about one of my partnerships. Pacific Sales is here to serve you with expert, knowledgeable, and non-commissioned professionals to help you specify the right product for all your projects. Non-commissioned. That means their only incentive is your satisfaction. Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home, a Best Buy company, has just that, with over 60 years of service in Southern California. Pacific Sales is your destination for exploration, advice, and inspiration. And you will find all your favorite brands, like Monogram, and their commitment to providing exceptional products, starting with materials. Monogram sources commercial-grade stainless steel on their refrigerators, unscratchable sapphire glass on their cooktop knobs, durable marine-grade bearings on their dishwasher racks. Monogram takes inspiration from the leading-edge materials used in the high-end automotive and aeronautics industry to provide you with lasting beauty and exceptional quality. The beauty is backed by the same level of attention to performance, which is why Monogram appliances are trusted and sought after by chefs all over the country. Chain-driven French oven doors that can be opened with one hand, and an industry-exclusive hearth oven that allows for all-electric indoor brick oven-style cooking without the need for external ventilation. These are just a few of the things that make Monogram so special. Pacific Sales features Monogram appliances, and Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home team is here to help you and offer their Pro Rewards program, which is a trade program unlike any you have experienced before. And here's the cherry on top: access. Access to exclusive builder trade incentives from top brands like Monogram. Visit a Pacific Sales showroom today to learn how you can unlock additional savings and benefits. Don't miss out on the opportunity to work with the best of the best. Visit Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home today and elevate your projects to new heights. Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home, where excellence meets expertise.
I think it's good.
It's interesting to me too, a couple of things that you mentioned. I feel too like home has changed. We're talking specifically about residential. And I think that home really has changed. And I don't think most, if not many, if really any clients, when designing their homes, thought about home as machine. Home as a machine that is driven by function. Not form and function like an architectural view of a home, but the actual systems that make up a home. Because you had mentioned the addition of outdoor kitchens. And I recently watched a program again at West Edge about the intelligent kitchen, which was presented by a gentleman and moderated by Easy Gonzalez, who's a vice president with Pacific Sales. And he led this conversation about how the intelligent kitchen is proliferating, in design, and how it has changed. And I imagine too that, you talk outdoor kitchen, indoor kitchen, scullery, butler's pantry, dirty kitchen, working kitchen, coffee bars, wine bars. If you're in a recreationally legalized state, weed bars. I mean, it is just, in a master suite where you will have a coffee center or a wine center, guest rooms where you'll have the same. Do you get that a lot as well?
Definitely. I feel like the whole working kitchen, dirty kitchen, that's huge right now. And because your kitchen's kind of where everybody convenes. So if you can keep that separate but accessible, I think that's very desirable. And we've done a place in St. Simon's Island in Georgia, and they kind of had that set up with the butler's pantry, the working kitchen, the main kitchen, and the outdoor kitchen that was all adjacent. And they just lived out there, and still do, during the pandemic. And that's where I see that function coming in, and it is like a machine for sure.
And it's you can't get away with it. So that being said, when it comes combining change in function, really it's a wholesale change in how people, who want more, who are demanding more out of their residential design. When it comes to that, how do you then navigate learning about new product? Because especially with regard to the kitchen and appliances, product has changed. Like I've never seen it change as rapidly as it is. Do you travel to shows? And if so, what does that look like for you?
I don't typically travel to the kitchen and bath shows, but I feel like here in Atlanta, we've got such great showrooms that always have the latest, greatest, or if they don't have it, they know what's coming down the road, and they're say, if you wait another month, you might want to try this. And so, it's definitely leaning on those experts in the industry for sure.
What is your design community like in Atlanta, as far as combination of how well the design community works together, as far as your ASID chapters or your other organizations, and as far as your showroom and manufacturing partners?
I'd say it's great. I feel like it's pretty tight knit community. Our office is next to the Design Center, ADAC, and it's all designers, architects, showrooms, and so we, I feel like, are tight knit. And in fact, I've been in a supper club for 25 years we were all design assistants at the time, and we're constantly, sharing sources and things like that, and being next door to the design center is just amazing. We can walk over there at any moment.
So what events do you attend?
Typically a lot of design ADAC, discover ADAC, where they're bringing speakers in, and then of course we always have our appointments with our all the vendor showrooms to see the new each season, to see all the new fabrics and furnishings, and that's great too. A lot of times they say, well, we know you're just next door, so do you want to come visit the showroom and see it, or you want us to bring it to you? And depending on what we're doing, but we usually go over there because then you can, see everything and finish samples, and it's great to have it right there. And I don't know how, I think it would be hard to do what we do in a city without a design center like we have.
Yeah. So you stay local.
Yes.
Do you find that, and I have heard that Atlanta is one of those cities that, you know, there is a developing appreciation for a modern look and feel, but it is still very, very traditional. Is that still the case?
I feel so, like that's the case, but I think, there are definitely some people that want only modern, and but our aesthetic is traditional, but with a tweak, or more eclectic, collected look, whether it's antiques but with more modern art or things like that. But and I feel like you see a lot of that in Atlanta. If you look at any of our show houses and things, it's a good mix. It's not totally modern.
Do you find that you have, and this goes both ways, some designers will say, I don't have a style. I don't want to have a style. I want to just be
Mm-hmm.
purely client focused, whatever they want and need. Others will say, no, I've got a style, and I want clients that want what I offer. I find it refreshing to hear creatives who say, I design a certain way, and it shows a proficiency in that particular style, where others want to be completely well-rounded. It almost feels more business-like to say we can do anything, as opposed to those who say we specialize in this. We can do anything, sure, but we specialize in this.
Right. I feel like that translates to, like, we are known for attention to detail, trim, fabric. That's my thing. And so it might translate in more, where someone doesn't want a lot of color, but and I don't ever feel like someone's going to walk in and say this is a Liz Williams room, because you want it to be the client's room, but at the same time maybe they pick up on the attention to detail, or this, the trim on this pillow that's mimicked, over here on the sofa skirt, or whatever it is. But I do think it's hard because you want the homeowner to love their house. So you don't want it to just be what you love. So hopefully you come to a happy medium.
Happy medium. I don't know. I'm gonna challenge you on something.
Okay.
There is no right or wrong answer.
All right.
But you get to someone like a Kelly Wersler,
Mm-hmm.
lover or hater, and there are people on both sides of it, right? But
Mm-hmm.
she has created a distinct look. Somebody who's been on the show before, Alex Papakristis, he has created a very distinct maximalist look that I think draws certain people,
Mm-hmm.
repels others, and I get that. At the end of the day, as a creative, do you not strive for a signature look?
I would say yes, but also I wouldn't want everything to look the same. So I guess it's trying to create a signature look, but that, has a metamorphosis depending on who you're working with, and always trying to do something new and different, but still keep your look.
And it's a tough question. I realize that, but where I'm going is kind of interesting. I have always felt, and the reason I do this, and the reason I love design as much as I do, design and architecture, the reason I love it is because it is a creative endeavor. And if you look at artists, fine artists, and you have a degree in fine arts, so you have studied fine arts.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And if you look at fine art and you look at artists, there's no artist that a Matisse, a Picasso. You want a distinct look, and back in the day when all art was, you had a patron that you were creating
Mhm.
art for them. They sought out the artist who was in line with their particular appeal, and then they got to put the finer points on it.
Mhm.
I think we're getting closer to interior design as fine art. I don't know. I don't, it feels to me like as a designer, one would want to have a distinct and signature look that they could lean back on. Architects do it all the time.
True. Yes. And I guess it's that fine line of, this is a Liz Williams room, but I can copy that because I've seen so much of what she's done, or whoever. Um, Instead of, if you always are kind of doing the same formula, um, it's is that what people want, or they want it? They're living in the house, so I think maybe it's a collaboration to a degree, and not just I'm just going to spit out the same thing.
It's so funny.
That
And
makes sense.
no, it makes sense. I get the trepidation, by the way. I really do. And the only thing I could compare it to, and by the way, I am quite sure you had no idea that the conversation was going to go in this direction. I I didn't either, but I can appreciate it. And I think that this is
Oh
a
yeah.
conversation that needs to be had. And I it's coming up more and more, and I'll tell you why. Back to the idea of dupes,
Hmm.
you know, we've sort of morphed socially and as a society into it's okay to be copy culture and it's okay to rip things off. And I think that social media is primarily responsible for that. There seems to be a lack of desire for authenticity in radio. My background's in broadcast, right? And there was this saying that we had where everyone was in a race to come in second. Nobody wanted to be the first one to come up with the new format because you're the one that got all the shots and darts. But the second one to come in with that format to learn what the first person did wrong or the first broadcast company did wrong and then come in and fix it seemed to be the more successful way to go. But
Hmm.
with art, it's always been like, I want to be new. I want to be different. I want to create something new. And then social media came around, and now everyone just wants to copy what they're
Hmm.
seeing somebody else do until an influencer comes up with something new. I would love to see the design community, interiors specifically, get to, landscape architects, I don't think ever have this issue. I don't think
Right.
this ever comes up. But
Right.
with interior design, I would love to see that return to experimentation. Do you
Hmm.
think, is that possible, especially knowing who your clients are?
I think so. I mean, I try to push myself and my team when we're starting a new project that, well, we did something similar 2 years ago, but let's, think of it like when you're doing a show house, and you want um, eye catching. Oh, that's so different that people can take away and remember you by. So why not try that in your with your regular clients? And so, or it's like, here's a pillow with let's find a brush fringe. Well, maybe we don't need a brush fringe. Maybe we need to do a solid pillow and do a design and trim on the front. It's just always trying to think what would make this more unique and interesting. So I think that it's just pushing yourself and your clients in that direction of just not the same old thing.
It's so funny you bring that up because I was going there. It's like you're reading my mind. I think that the show house is remarkable for that very purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And you do quite a bit of them. The Home for the Holidays breakfast room.
Mm-hmm.
What was that?
That was a very large room right off the kitchen. That I mean, it really came off as more of a dining room size. It was huge.
Sorry,
So
was it a show house or is that
yes,
just it
it's a,
is okay? Sorry.
a local show. Yes, and so Atlanta Homes and Lifestyles magazine does it every Christmas. Um, holiday time. So that's always a challenge because you have the layer of the just the room and what are we doing, and then the next layer of all the holiday comes. So um, again, think outside the box. We don't have to do red and green and that sort of thing.
Well, and the reason I wanted to focus on that as the first one is because to me, and if I say anything that you feel differently about, please tell me. But I feel like this was divergent from what I have seen in some of your other projects. This felt different to me.
Mm-hmm.
Your use of lighting, specifically that chandelier, the
Uh-huh.
artwork, the additional seating, which someone would probably not put in a residential dining room, but it belongs there. You're just looking at it; it
Right.
belongs there. And
Right.
the manner in which there's almost like a living room design approach to a dining room space just seems really special to me, and it seems very different from most of your other projects.
Yes. I mean, I think the size of the room made it a little bit of a challenge, and didn't want to have just furniture lined up. And that's when we thought, okay, well, a bench in the window looks great, and it can be overflow seating if you're having a party or that sort of thing. And in terms of the more contemporary art with the very traditional curtain fabric and mixed in with the antiques, I thought, you never know what adjacent rooms in a show house what you're going to get, and it all ended up working seamlessly. The kitchen was very modern, but the colors translated, and so I think it all worked.
Okay, so now case in point, juxtaposed to another project, you have the cashier's show house dining room.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a lot of similarities that I haven't seen with other creatives. This to me feels like what we're talking about, where someone like you develops a signature space.
Yeah, I think especially in a show house, I guess the fabrics kind of are my starting point, and it all just sort of evolved from there once I kind of know what colors we're going with. And so I guess I hadn't really thought about it, but I guess both those spaces kind of do have the same feeling.
It's interesting too, because it's not the point that I'm sort of going towards is, and I'm just curious, do you feel like there is a negative connotation to having a signature look, which by the way doesn't mean you do it all the time, but it's
Right.
something that one pioneers and refines and perfects
Mm-hmm.
and is able to sort of put out there, change it in certain ways to fit the client's color palette and preferences, but still, when someone comes to you, I guess it just always feels like in design there is this negative connotation to a signature look, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't understand why.
I guess maybe I think of it as from on the homeowners, the client side, that I don't want to live in Liz Williams' house. I want to live in my house, but they're hiring me for a reason. So, I've had a friend that hired me to do a mid-century modern cabin in the North Georgia mountains, and can I do mid-century? But it was so much fun, and I loved it. And you would never guess I did it, but it was great, and it was a nice diversion.
How did that make you feel when they started talking you through the aesthetic and the influence, and now you're sort of that imposter syndrome that you might have felt when you first started the business kind of creeps back in a little bit?
Right, right. Um, I was like, first, can I do this? And then the more we started looking at several local shops for furniture, and kind of then we sort of got on a roll, and we're like, okay, I can appreciate this. It's not what I have in my house, but isn't this cool? And isn't, and it totally fit the house that was in the side of a mountain. And so yeah, it was I would say it was challenging but fun. I mean, and the end result, again, you would never guess I did it.
One of the projects that you have that I absolutely love for so many reasons, and I wanted to dig into this one a little bit because there's so much to unpack,
Okay.
is your Georgia barn in Madison.
Oh yeah.
When did you do this project?
Let's see. It was completed towards the end of 23.
Okay. I want to start in an unusual spot, but I want to start in this bunk room.
Mm.
I love that bunk room.
It's great. It's so much fun. I'll just as for a little background, this family lives in Madison in town, and that this is sort of their land outside of town. It's a getaway, but it's like 15-minute getaway. So they're testing out whether they want to move out there and build a big house. It's that the barn was a great way to say we can come out here. They have 3 kids. There's enough space to spend the night, hang out, and we'll see if we like it. And so that bunk room was definitely how many people can we fit in here, and with the tall ceilings, it really worked out well.
That's what I was pointing out in this particular project. It's really interesting because, and I normally do this. So for those again who may be new to the show, if you go to the show notes, you can click on Liz's website, go to the projects page, and you can walk through some of these projects with us. I think you'll find it interesting. It's interesting to me too, your use of verticality in this project in a number of spaces, jumping over to the outdoor kitchen.
Uh-huh.
Was this the backside of an actual barn?
Yes. So that there's the front of the barn that's the living quarters, and then the back is actually kind of the working area with all the equipment and everything. So that's just beyond that area. And they have just loved it. I mean, they've got the kitchen inside, but for a big crowd, and they have the bonfires and do all sorts of fun stuff out there. So uh, um it was a great space, and that kind of was the afterthought, like, well, what can we need to do something out here. And then now they've got this awesome outdoor living area.
That was an afterthought.
Mm-hmm. Because they before they started building it, they had sort of the fire pit and all that, and thinking that was enough. And we've got being practical. Well, we have a kitchen inside, and then I'm like, well, but look at this perfect space to do all this, and I really think they have enjoyed it.
Let's hear it for happy accidents.
Yes,
That's amazing. And this house lives bigger than I think the footprint would indicate.
definitely. I mean, it's really 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, and but I feel like with um the high ceilings and just it feels very open, and they have everything they need right there with the eat-in kitchen and all that.
And then sometimes I'm making a couple of assumptions here. So please, if I'm off base at all, let me know. One of the things that I love to do is it's kind of like an Easter egg hunt for me, looking at designers' portfolio page and trying to figure out if any of their projects were actually theirs, because I love hearing from designers to see what kind of clients they are. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm making a huge assumption, but I'm going to assume that Liz's primary bath is yours.
It is.
Okay.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. So, a couple of things that I'm curious about. What did you tell yourself as a client that as the designer you wanted to deliver? And a couple of things I want to focus on. A, the wallpaper, and B, I'm going again making an assumption that that's a steam shower.
Yes.
And then you have the standalone tub. As a designer, what did you hear from you, the client, that put this project together?
Well, it had been about 20 years since we did the bathroom, and it was beige tumbled marble and glass tiles in the shower. It was just dated and just very blah. Beige walls, was very beige. And so I thought, I just need color, happy. I had used that climbing nasturtium wallpaper in the blue colorway for a client, and it just was amazing to me. Like you just walk in that bathroom and it's so happy and so refreshing. And so I am a huge fan of green, as everyone knows. And so I said, I want this. Like I started with that wallpaper and sort of ran with it. We didn't change the floor plan too much, but we refaced the cabinets, did all new tile, plumbing, lighting, all that. And that was a dressing table that I had that we had lacquered. And so some of the same things stayed, but the overall feel is night and day.
Talk about the performative value of the bathroom, because it's funny. I don't often have a chance to talk to clients and their designers to see how the performative value of the design actually matched their expectations. But
Mm-hmm.
because you are both client and designer, and it's interesting because I don't feel like in the past many clients had viewed a bathroom space for its performative value. But to be specific and clear, especially now, we see designers who are putting in refrigeration into the bathroom for both water, towels, makeup, GLP-1s.
Mm-hmm.
It's useful. Putting in warming drawers, appliances, warming drawers
Mm-hmm.
for towels, so that you can take the warming bar, the towel bar off the wall and
Mm-hmm.
clear the design a little bit, which is amazing. The steam shower, um, I work with, I don't know what brand you used. I work with Thermosol. Thermosol has been a sponsor of the show for a number of years. And I have learned so much about what steam does for individuals, from a health perspective, from a mental perspective. It's incredibly important. And I feel like clients are starting to say, the money that we spend in there, it's double what we would have done in the past, or triple, but it's worth it. Liz, the client, versus Liz, the designer. Did you get all the things you wanted?
Yes, I feel like we did, and we did the heated floors, which I always tell clients it's not that expensive. You just have to do it before you put the tile in, and so we I feel like we did we've got plenty of storage. It's that was another thing with adding the tower. Um, it's great. I love it.
I love it too. And when how long will it be? It's not a matter of if, but when, right? Because design doesn't
Mhm.
last forever. How
Right.
long before you get tired of it and feel like you have to go in and do it again? Do you think 20 years?
Maybe. Yeah. I think it's now been about almost 4. So, and I still love it every day. So hopefully it'll last 20 years. And I think it will. It's a classic, pretty classic design.
And that's the thing. That's what you want every client to tell you, right? I go in there and I love it every day.
Yes.
That's what you want to hear.
Oh yeah. And that is you are in it every day. So why not?
And it's interesting too, the things that don't show that are so important is, and the only reason that I speculated on it being a steam shower is because the glass went all the way to the top. There was no transom, but the glass went all
Mm-hmm.
the way to the top. So I'm assuming, did you have any, and the what doesn't show is the warming floor, I think is incredible. Did you
Mm-hmm.
have any, I don't want to call it fear, but did you think twice about putting a steam shower or putting wallpaper in a bathroom that has a steam shower?
Um, I did, and I, had a long conversation with my wallpaper hanger and just and the contractor that kind of just said, "Do we have the ventilation? Can it handle this?" Because it, as I said, was just beige paint before, so never had any issues. And then adding the steam, but it's been a couple of years and everything's great. So
Did that lead to the decision for no transom?
yes,
Okay. All right. That
and
makes sense.
it's a you can't really tell in the picture, but it's a small corner shower. So I think from a design standpoint, it looks better than adding the transom.
Yeah, no, I think it's gorgeous. I think it's wonderful. Last project I wanted to go through with you was
Okay.
your Buckhead residence.
Hmm.
I saved this one for last because I have a couple of questions. I feel like this is it's a combination. It's kind of a hybrid. When you look at the kitchen, that kitchen is not totally traditional, but you look at some of the other spaces that are very traditional. You've
Mm-hmm.
kind of blended into a soft traditional, if there's such a thing, that isn't so regimented. And the was that intentional?
I think so. I mean, the you said softer, and I feel like those were sort of the colors we were working with, and it was traditional house, but we you know used traditional things in a lot of spaces, but every so often we sort of snuck some more eclectic pieces in.
And I'm curious too. You know, Southern California has a distinct design style. Memphis
Hmm.
has a design style. Kansas City is developing. Austin has. Does Buckhead have a design style? Is there a signature style for Buckhead, do you think?
I feel like it it's always been traditional, but it's definitely getting we have great more contemporary art galleries. I'd say it's a combination and but not so traditional stuffy, but um, the mixing the old and the new to kind of have a more fresh look.
Last question for you, and I run this out every now and then because it's I'm curious and it's fun. Um, if you had to manifest a project that you've never done that you've always wanted to, what would it be?
Hmm.
Throw it out there because
um,
you know what? We've done this before. And I was talking to a designer who said a boutique hotel. And then wouldn't you know, within a year, they wound up getting a boutique hotel. I'm just throwing it out there. It's happened.
okay, okay. We do all residential, the occasional office, but I've always thought it would be fun to do a restaurant. Um, I like to eat out. I'm experienced at that, and I just think I just got back from New York and went to so many fabulous places that is it's really an experience these days. So I think that would be fun. I'd love to do that.
I love that. And can I share a story with you?
Sure.
Uh, a couple months ago, I returned home to Southern California, home to Manhattan Beach specifically, to talk to a restaurateur named Michael Zislis about Bruco, which is a long time restaurant in Manhattan Beach that was recently redesigned and reimagined. And I went to talk to him about it. And I also had a chance to talk to the designer, Noel Isbell, in Manhattan Beach. And I heard the greatest restaurant design story ever. And basically, Zislis, Michael would have an internal designer design all of his concepts and then do the redesigns internally. She is a resident of Manhattan Beach. She walked in to the restaurant one day and said, "Hey, I noticed that you're doing a remodel. I should be your designer, and here's what I would do."
Uh,
He hired her on the spot. She designed the restaurant, and it's complete. When I was talking to him, it was interesting. He said it's completely different from what I would do, and I wouldn't change a thing.
oh, I
So
love that.
it's one of those things where sometimes manifesting it is, first of all, putting it out there, and second of all, next time you see a restaurant in the Atlanta area, just go talk to them.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You never know.
You never know.
Right, right. That's don't always have to stay in your lane.
You don't always have to stay in your lane. You don't, no matter what you're
Right,
doing.
right.
It's a good
That's
point.
true.
Liz, thank you so much for doing this. I have absolutely loved our talk.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. This was fun.
Design Hardware's newly remodeled showroom is where you will find a gallery-style space with a thoughtful display of products, purposefully positioned to allow unbridled exploration and discovery. High-end faucets, luxury tile, natural stone, wood floors, and bespoke hardware selections are presented in a holistic manner, strategically arranged to stimulate creativity and transition your vision from the conceptual stage to a fully realized space. Conveniently located, free parking available. Stop by to find your inspiration. collect samples, get expert advice, and tackle everything on your shopping list all in one place. Visit them online at designhardware.com or in the real world, 6053 West 3rd Street in Los Angeles.
Thank you, Liz, for taking the time to share your thoughts. Loved it. Thank you to my incredible partner sponsors, Thermosol, TimberTech, Pacific Sales, Monogram, and Design Hardware. Amazing companies and great friends to the trade. So please give them an opportunity on your next project. And thank you for listening, subscribing to the show, and sharing with your colleagues. If not already subscribing, please do so, so that you receive every episode automatically to your podcast feed. Anyway, until next week, thank you for sharing this time together. Until the next episode, be well, stay focused, and above the chaos.